One man, one mission, to rid the world of chronic anxiety once and for all. The Anxiety Guy, Denis Mcdermott, shares his personal transformation from living a life filled with overwhelming worry to becoming a full-fledged positivity machine. A leading authority in generalized anxiety, Denis gets to the truth of your mental health challenges and sets you on a path to transforming each and every area of your life. Here he is, the one and only, the Anxiety Guy.
Hey guys, welcome to the Anxiety Guy podcast. This is Denis Mcdermott. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest on episode number 48. We have Dr. Denise Mcdermott on. Hello, Denise.
Hi, Denis. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for engaging with me on Twitter and just conversing, and you're one of the nicest people on Twitter I've ever met. It just seems like you just have this kind of energy that people just love, and it's such an honor to have you on this podcast.
Oh, thank you. I'm new to the social media scene in the last year. I thought it was very important with 1.9 billion children on our planet aged 0 to 15.
Yeah, totally.
Engaging in social media, I thought it's just so important for all of us to come together and share our insights and our knowledge and our passion for health and well-being.
Totally. And Denise has a private practice since 2001. She's a medical doctor who treats children, adolescents, and adults. She also has a podcast of her own, and she has an ebook called Mental Health and How to Thrive. So I'm just so excited to pick Denise's brain a little bit today and get a medical doctor's point of view on GAD and health anxiety. And I truly feel like this is such an awesome opportunity today. So thanks again, Denise. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And your expertise it's just such a long list. I just wowza. And it includes anxiety disorders, mood disorders, addictions. You've seen them all, I bet.
Yeah, at this point, a lot of psychiatrists do administration work. They have other things that they enjoy doing. But I've been in practice, and I've seen 40,000 hours of patient care. And so I really, my biggest goal always is for people to spend the least amount of time in my office. Mm-hmm. And if I can prescribe no meds or minimal if needed in moderate to severe cases of mental health challenges, that's what, it's not that I wouldn't do it, but I really take a holistic view when someone comes into my office.
Mm-hmm. And Denise, that's a little bit different than what we think doctors are, though, right? For instance, myself with health anxiety, back in the day, suffering, fighting myself. It was basically a me versus myself battle that I victimized myself and I blamed the world for my issues and such. But when I went to the doctors, it was almost like prescription was the first line of treatment, along with therapy, and there wasn't too many questions being asked as far as, all the other stuff that creates wellness, right? And so you have a different approach.
Oh, thank you. And you know what? Okay, so when I finished my adult psychiatry at Emory University, I ended up doing my child psychiatry at UCLA. And I very much value my medical background. Mm-hmm. However, the way I wanted to practice psychiatry, I knew it was best. The reason why I went into private practice is I didn't want a managed care system with insurance to dictate you have X amount of minutes with your patient, because I didn't think the essence of really knowing someone's soul, because back in the 1990s, the year where I trained, it was sort of the decade of the brain, and everything was about a neurotransmitter and whatnot. And so I think an integrative approach where you really get to know someone, because my initial consultation with children is 2 hours, and I spend 45 minutes to an hour with a child. I spend that same amount of time with their parents. I look at rating scales, I look at report cards. But the first step, I think, and I don't know what your experience was when you saw doctors, is you really have to build that therapeutic trust and really get to know someone instead of just sort of target symptoms.
I mean, as a CBT practitioner myself, I mean, for the last 6 years of working with people, it seems like when you have that rapport and when you have that trust within each other, and when you actually have a story behind it, it seems to be the most powerful. Like when someone can relate to you, it's almost like it's half the battle, it seems.
Well, it's really, I agree with you. It's really interesting. The Greek breakdown of the word psychiatrist is doctor of the soul. And so to me, when you're interacting, whether it's as a CBT therapist, whether you're a teacher, whether you're an attorney, when you interact with another human being, you are interacting with the essence of who they are on a soul level, and also their belief system, their cultural viewpoint, their gender belief point, their sexuality. And so to me, when you're interacting with someone, you need to take like a multidimensional approach. And I think that when someone feels, Dennis, that you really care about them, and you have that level of compassion, and someone can feel a loving energy, to me, that is like step one of engaging in healing and a well-being treatment plan.
And I want to ask you this question of how often do you get hypochondriacs? How often do you get people that suffer from health anxiety?
I don't use the word hypochondria. For me as a doctor, I'm very mindful of the words that I choose. And so I don't really have a lot of people where I would say it was hypochondria. And I maybe need to define what you mean. But as far as, let's take it a step further, I believe when people have, like for instance, let's take a specific example. If a child presents with repeated sort of stomach upset, and the doctors do the full-blown, the pediatrics do the full-blown medical workup. I mean, one of the most common presentations of anxiety for children is stomach ache or headaches. Now, hypochondriasis is a whole other specific DSM kind of category, but I think the mind-body connection is very powerful because we're integrative systems. So if you have a more specific example, I don't see a lot of people who have hypochondria. I see people who have genuine mind-body challenges, and then you have to, for me as a Western medicine trained doctor, I obviously need to look at that from the scientific standpoint, but my integrative approach makes sure I cover the medicine part, the relationship part. So do you have a specific example?
Absolutely. It's almost like with the listeners, one of the complaints is that when they go to doctors and when they always have this specific doctor that they kind of have on their speed dial. When something goes wrong, when they feel a symptom, or when they get a feeling, for instance, like tingly fingers or heart palpitations or profuse sweating or whatever it may be, they go to their speed dial and they call their doctor right away, and the doctor reassures that, you know what, they've done the tests and everything came out normal, and that this is in fact caused by a chain of events, certain patterns that people are running, and certain stimulation and such. So hypochondriac as people a little bit, where they've had the tests before, they've had the MRIs, they've kind of taken care of the headaches, they know what the symptoms are, but when another symptom pops up, almost like that questioning of it, and what could this one be, right? And what could this one be? And knowing that these people are physically very healthy, they're glowing, their relationships might be fantastic, but just this curiosity or this constant what if thinking process that keeps them very interested in their symptoms and what it might be. Because with me, for instance, when I had anxiety and when I had panic attacks or a new symptom, I always felt like this was the one. Like this was the one that was going to kill me. And it kind of got to that point where I had 15 different symptoms. When I took care of one symptom and I was reassured that, you know what, Dennis, this isn't a brain tumor, basically went on to the next one and then the next one and so forth. And so these doctors are constantly seeing these people that are dealing with more than just what they think is a physical ailment, but in fact is this reoccurrent chain of events, these patterns that they keep running in their minds and their bodies that they're not really aware of.
So can I ask you then, since you gave your specific example,
Sure.
did you have a kind and caring primary care doctor that was super reassuring, like, Dennis, we've done the medical workup, we're not seeing your labs look good, your MRI looks good. Were you open to talking with someone for therapy? Because sometimes people can have a lot of anxiety and they just need some coping strategies to calm their stress down. And then if indeed someone has ruminative thinking or intrusive thoughts or ego-dystonic thinking, the step would be refer someone to a therapist. But if indeed the rumination just, sort of plagued with it. So when people have a generalized anxiety or obsessive compulsive disorder and it's moderate to severe, you're not within your own, if you think of your own mind as its own chamber and what your thoughts are, we're talking about our internal world. If people do therapy and they're not able to sort of tell themselves or their own mindset, oh, Dennis, you're fine. You went to the doctor, you're okay, and then maybe you needed some therapy, and then you're getting the cognitive behavioral therapy tools, and if it's still something where you're fearful, and every medical test and also holistic way of looking at something has been known to be that you're fine, then that's when someone might end up benefiting from seeing an adult or child psychiatrist depending on their age. But there's a whole series of steps. And then I also think it's the essence of how your primary care doctor, for all of you listening, if you've been told that you're healthy and you're well, but you're still having those anxiety loops, then it's really important. We can talk about meditation, we can talk about good nutrition, but when you're suffering on that kind of level where you think you're about to die, that gets in the way of your life every day. And that's when there's an appropriate use of possibly being considered for medication, but only after you've done all the other steps.
Right.
So did you have a good doctor that took you through that, or how did that play out for you?
Totally, and my story is very similar to the listeners here, and the majority have the similar kind of experiences that I have, and it's very similar as it's almost like this non-belief of whatever the doctor says. It's like the tests have been done, there is a lot of caring from the doctors. Therapy will give, well, in my own experience, I had therapy. I went through therapy for a couple of weeks, and I felt like there was nothing there to relate to. It almost felt like there was just these techniques being thrown at me, right? And it was almost like the therapist was trying to get me to cope and not really get to the root of the issue, which was in fact the fear of death, right? And it was almost like masking the issue a lot of the times. But as far as the doctors go, they were very caring. I got a lot of letters from the doctors saying, Dennis, you know what, you can chalk this up as being anxiety and tension and a certain buildup, and it seems like you're eating well and you're sleeping well and your relationships look good, but there's just this certain set patterns that you keep running in your daily life, these certain thought processes, these certain beliefs that you have, these certain behaviors that are fueling more anxiety. And when that anxiety pops up, it's almost like, this is going to be the one. This is the one that's going to get me. So for me, it was like I never believed the doctor's diagnosis. And as far as therapy went, it was like I always felt like I never had that connection with people because they never had the same journey that I had. It wasn't till the point that I started emailing people that had a similar experience with health anxiety and went through years and years of it and debilitating and couldn't go outside their house and basically looked at the world in such a fearful way. And when I started to talk to that person that I could relate to, I felt less alone. And I felt like, you know what, there's an underlying issue there. It's not about just using my mind and changing my thought patterns and such. It's kind of about using my body as well, my physiology and what I needed to do. So I kind of felt like I got a deeper understanding of what it was, and I could relate to somebody. And that's basically where I felt like it was like half the battle was won, right? And it's a complicated journey. It's such a strange journey because you're basically fighting against yourself on a daily basis. And you're just in this loop of fear and terror and adrenaline, and it's just constant, almost with no real sign, because nobody really understands what a hypochondriac or someone with health anxiety is really going through, right? Except for, you know, the professionals out there that have gone through it and kind of, you know, are very educated on it. So it's kind of a very sticky kind of area. It's very difficult.
So I want to honor thank you so much. I know this is your show and the listeners know about you, but this is my first time getting to know you, Dennis. And for me, words that we use and choose, like, for instance, the word illness versus the word wellness. When you say the word, so I like to talk to my patients about their mental wellness. It doesn't mean I don't validate the part that's the symptom part when someone's suffering. However, the words we choose, so I don't know if, has someone told you that you're a hypochondriac? Is that why you're using that term?
Yes, that was basically a common word that I got, and a lot of the listeners get from the doctors. Basically, when they felt like, well, for me actually in my story, when I went to the doctor, got the test done, found out that, you know, what I was Googling on Dr. Google as far as what a headache might be, as far as a brain tumor and such. Basically, when that part was taken care of, the doctors would say, well, I guess you're a hypochondriac, so it's time for therapy, right? So when one symptom was overcome, and I had the confidence to believe that, in fact, that was not related to what I thought it was, and my greatest fear won't come true. Basically, as I was running the same patterns in my mind and my body, a new symptom would pop up. And when it did, the first thing I did was go to the doctors again. And so basically, again and again, I was told that it was health anxiety and it was hypochondria, but it was very difficult to believe, right?
So did you get referred to a therapist? Did you get referred to a psychiatrist so they could help you out with the anxiety you were experiencing?
Yes. I had,
okay.
Yeah.
So can I just say something for everyone listening? I don't use the word hypochondria, and this is why. When someone tells me they have a headache, they have a headache. When someone tells me they have stomach upset, they have stomach upset. So then you have to look at what the etiology is. And then you look at you rule out all the physical symptoms. And then if you have a very endearing therapist and psychiatrist who understands and has worked and helped someone. So I have worked with a lot of people that have had the symptoms you've had. I just never called it hypochondria. Usually someone suffering with some generalized anxiety, some separation anxiety, some social anxiety. And then maybe for another show we can talk about the soul, or you and I can have a off the podcast discussion about that because it's a more advanced discussion.
Totally.
So for me as a professional, I really always validate someone's symptoms because they're real. And so kind of an old school, like years and years ago, people would just think, oh, it's all in your head. Right? There would be like this kind of almost stigma. And when I was doing in medical school or in my psychiatry rotations that were the med science, like other doctors might be like, oh, gotta send them to psychiatry. All the medical workup's negative. And there was a bit of a stigma about the way people talked about people. So to me, as a society, The word hypochondria, I know it has a real reason, but I prefer not to even use that word because I believe that someone's suffering and they are having symptoms, and we just need to get to the bottom of it. And it's really common for people to have more than one type of anxiety. So usually symptoms of anxiety travel together. 75% of children or teens before the age 24 would present if they have any history of anxiety or mental health issues. Usually 75% of people have some sort of their style. And also, Dennis, it's really important for everyone listening, I do not like the word disorder. In fact, I've written that in my blogs on DrDeniseMD.com. I honor and value the need to have a linear language to discuss and categorize. And I also like to empathize with someone feeling like they're suffering, so they're feeling like they're in disorder. But when we get overly tagged to labels, it can get in the way of our own healing process. So having an understanding of what's going on and why is step one, being educated. And step two is finding the right person to help you. And I believe we have our own answers to many of our health problems. I would say to people listening, if you're having good nutrition, probiotics, meditation, mindfulness, exercise, and you have a good foundation for mental health and physical health, we have a lot of our own healing tools. And also, when you go to see a doctor, if you see a doctor who you don't feel like is believing you or taking your symptoms seriously, then it's okay to shop for a different doctor.
I'm glad you point that out, Denise. That's huge. And I also love that you pointed out the education part. And it seems like a lot of times with this challenge, it's almost like people are in a state of such panic and anxiety and fear that it's almost like they're always looking for kind of a quick fix, right? And when it's not there, when it's not in front of them, it's almost like there is no solution. I'm going to have to just cope with this for the rest of my life. And that's kind of an approach that a lot of people have. And the nice thing about this podcast is that it does, in fact, educate people. It does give them a different way of looking at their challenges. And I love that you just pointed out the fact of education and looking at it as a mind, body, soul kind of overall healing altogether as far as helping you with anxiety. So that's fantastic. And I wanted to go for it.
Well, I was going to say one of the reasons why I didn't go and work for anyone is that I didn't like the way people spoke. By the way, I'm not saying there's so many gifted psychiatrists, therapists that work in managed care, and that system, we're living in a society where we do need structures put into place. But I felt very fortunate. I kind of went on my own because I wanted to have a mindset of healing and the words that we choose. And I didn't want to have, the window of your office, meaning the receptionist or whoever does calls. I'm very mindful when I have someone returning patient calls that they have a healing mindset and that they really care. Because the energy vibration of all of our thoughts make a difference. And so when you go to get care from a doctor or from a therapist or a nutritionist, you really want to make sure that you feel very cared for, because that's a big part of the healing process. And then before you go in to get help, you should, for someone that's having sort of that fear of death, if you were to tell yourself a phrase, a mantra, like it's going to be okay, and come up with a phrase that's very self-healing for yourself, that can make a big difference in your treatment.
And it seems like you have a very Eastern approach. Am I right? Is it more of an Eastern approach to dealing with anxiety? Is that what they're doing over there?
I don't know if they're doing it. I will just say that with humility, with absolute humility, I am actually almost getting tears telling you this. I've seen 40,000 hours worth of patients, and my integration of how I understand mental health. I just went to the Dalai Lama's He has a beautiful conference called the Body, Mind, Life Conference. I just went to Dharamsala, and I had the honor of one of my colleagues was speaking there, and she invited me. And so from what you're saying, yes, my perspective is very integrated. I try to stay somewhere in the middle because I don't want to, I think when we shift too far in any type of thinking, then we're not as open to all ways of healing.
Right.
I think that when people say, oh, no medicines, or oh, you can do it all nutrition, or oh, this, I think we're missing all modalities of treatment. And it's very, very important that everyone listening knows your belief and your ability to get well is a big part of the healing process. And food is a form of nutrition. Probiotics are important. Forgiveness in relationships are important. And so you asked the question, I would say I'm a very integrative psychiatrist. And I know we have X amount of time for this podcast, but at this point in time, I am doing a meditation 6-month program. I have my own form of mindfulness and meditation that I already practice that's very, very successful. And I give those tools to my patients. However, in order to bridge the concept of meditation into psychiatry and into all of medicine, I'm doing a class with Michel Pascal, who lived in a monastery, who you can read about him on one of my blogs.
Perfect.
So my intention is that we start thinking about mindset and the way we think from a very young age, and that we integrate tools, just like brushing your teeth to keep good dental hygiene, that you value your inner world. Because I think we could have a lot of prevention. And it doesn't mean that people won't have generalized anxiety. They won't have feelings that they're going to die. It means that they have more permission to talk about it, and that society is going to have integrative tools in the classroom, in the workplace, which we're starting to see a lot in America. And in California, where I live and where I practice in Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach, we're kind of at, I don't know what it's like where you live, but my son, who is in first grade, they have a program called Mind Up, which is Goldie Hawn's Mind Up with a lot of successful neuroscientists. And my son they do meditation and mindfulness in the schools now, and they talk about the amygdala and fear. And so to me, when we can educate at a very, very young age, then society is going to do better. So I would say I have an integrative approach, and I value all ways and all paths to well-being. But data is important, of course, but that there's many ways for healing.
Right, and you're mentioning a lot of things that come down to the essential factor, and that's basically awareness, right? It's just this awareness of what's happening, like what is going on right now, like what areas of my life do I feel like are hurting me and such, and creating more fear and anxiety. What kind of stimulation am I getting from certain things like TV and music and such, and just basically stopping. And I love your words, and just using mindfulness constantly and just being aware. And when you talk about meditation, it's almost like it makes you much more conscious and aware of everything that's going on in your daily life, right? So what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're hearing, all that stuff. So everything starts with awareness, right?
Yes. And so to me, if we could have our children, our toddlers, and the pediatricians and OBGYNs talking as part of a wellness tip to new parents, like, oh, yeah, let's incorporate mindset. And I think words, even the word meditation, words become overused in society. And so the word meditation, for a lot of people start to freak out.
Right.
All my patients that have ADHD are like, I'm just going to say WTF. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, Dr. Denise, like, please tell me. Like, one of my patients, he heard that I was doing more integrative. I'm about to do a documentary.
Wow.
He was in a panic. Dennis, he was in a panic. He goes, you're not going to stop being my doctor. You're not going to, like, stop prescribing if people need it. I go, no, absolutely not.
Wow.
So, like, do you see what happens? Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, so hopefully that's answering some of your questions about kind of my approach and my thinking about it.
Totally. Denise, you're the real deal. You really are. And it's like, it's just so refreshing just to talk to you. And in closing, I know, just putting everything that we talked about together, your 3 best pieces of advice for people for excellent mental health. Top 3 stuff that we can just clam everything together.
Well, I'm just going to kind of do stream of consciousness. I think prevention and awareness and education are sort of the first line of defense. And that includes, from a physical standpoint, good nutrition, and probiotics are very important. Exercise is incredibly important for mental health, 20 to 30 minutes a day. Mindfulness and meditation are very important. And also, remember, you are not your symptoms. That's one of the biggest things. You are not your symptoms. Like, you're Dennis, and you're having an experience of your reality, and then you can have the hope of having a fulfilling life.
And Denise, for people out there that want to get in touch with you, want to get the book, everything else, your website was
DrDeniseMD.com.
Okay.
And I'm also on Twitter at Dr. Denise MD. I'm on Facebook as Dr. Denise. And then I just joined Instagram. I joined Facebook last April.
Right on.
And I just started that. I better make sure I'm on Instagram now, too. So,
Instagram's kind of fun.
It's interesting. So in the book, Mental Health and How to Thrive, is a combination of some of my blogs that are on my website. So if you'd like to have the information, you can get that on Amazon, but there's a lot of really great information for free on my website. And I am very passionate about health, prevention, and well-being, and changing the mindset of how we talk and think about mental health.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, Denise. I truly appreciate it. I know the listeners appreciate it, and having your point of view and everything else. And we'd love to have you back on, and we'll hopefully discuss that. Guys, make sure you guys follow Dr. Denise on Twitter. She's there. Ask her some questions. Get involved and follow her. And I truly believe that when we run into people like this, and when we take our answers as far as a holistic kind of view, everything kind of falls into place. So, Denise, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast.
Oh, Dennis, thanks for having me, and thank you for all you do to raise awareness for others. And it's so empowering.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing.
Awesome. I'll talk to you really soon, guys. You are more than anxiety. See you guys in the next episode.
Thanks for being an important part of the Anxiety Guy podcast community. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a positive rate and review. If you're searching for further support on your road to recovery from anxiety, head over to anxietyexit.com and take part in the powerful End the Anxiety program based around the CBT model. If you're searching for a more one-on-one approach, you can sign up now for personal coaching sessions with Dennis via Skype. Remember, you are more than anxiety. See you in the next episode.